Good afternoon, and thank you for joining us again on one of our Facebook Live web chats. Today I'm joined with Andy Marsh, Chief Constable of Avon and Somerset. And since the last time we had one of these was that there have been another set of changes. I think that there will continue to be changes in regulations because they need to reflect the changes of the pandemic. So we're just going to have to get very good at adapting to these new rules. But of course, there's always uncertainty because of this change. So I'm going to be putting this afternoon some of the questions to Andy Marsh. So Andy, is there anything you'd like to add before we start?
There's been a lot happening actually, Sue, so if it's okay just to take a few moments to talk about those issues. Tragically, we know that Sergeant Matt Ratner lost his life last week. All of his police family and many more beyond it in the rugby world, in his own home family, are mourning his loss. It's the sort of thing that impacts on us all. So we're thinking of our colleagues in the Metropolitan Police, and I wrote to Cressida Dick to express that the very day that it happened. But then you joined me on Sunday at headquarters in our memorial garden for a very fitting service overseen by the Force Chaplain Andy Paget, and we specifically remembered Matt, but we also remembered the many other officers and PCSO Dave Adams who've been they've lost their lives and been killed in the line of duty. On a happier note, the weekend before that, we were both at our operational centre for our open day. We saw displays from dogs, horses, road policing, firearms. We were joined by 5,000 people. It's our fifth open day, and I know that you didn't want to let people down who said, is it happening? And of course we can't do it in the normal way, but we were joined by 5,000 people, and those videos are online, and I learnt something watching them, so I think they're great material if people are wondering what our Manta section, our dogs, road policing or firearms do. It's an incredibly busy time operationally. We're here together in Kennerstill House, our policing base in Bristol. I joined the major crime investigation team this morning, 54 police officers and staff investigating the very tragic murder of Andre Gale. The positive news on that is that we've charged someone who appeared in court today. So I'm very pleased about that, and I was able to thank the officers in person, but there's a lot of hard work ahead of them. We also have people out looking for vulnerable missing people. It's an element of police work that the public might not always see and witness. But I saw some officers leaving the station just a few minutes ago and asked them what they were doing. They were searching for Lucy Pask down in Wellington, Alex Unsgaard in Bath, and literally they're working extended shifts, quick changeovers, straight back to work, and we're doing our very best to find those missing people. We hope they'll find them safe and well. And then the other unusual thing that we've been doing in the last week is an intensification of our work to tackle county lines, this drug dealing method that we see. The officers were very busy with that, made 16 arrests last week, visited 100 bed and breakfasts and hotels to give them preventative advice, went to 70 addresses of vulnerable people that addresses risk being taken over, and did an awful lot of safeguarding and prevention around schools and with other agencies. So all of that is on top of the COVID work and our business as usual.
Thank you. And it's just a reminder that life is never dull being in the police, isn't it? And it's one of the things we always say to police officers and PCSOs that, you know, you join the police service, and if you want to make a difference, this is absolutely the job for you, because just talking about the sheer breadth of what's happened in the last couple of weeks just reflects that, you know, how crucial our police are and how busy they are at this moment.
So some of the things I've spoken about are very, very sad and tragic, but it is a privilege for vocational people to be able to help family members and friends at those times search for missing people, bring people to justice. And then there are, you know, the other events where we can see that we're changing lives with the open day. And I hope we've inspired some dog handlers, police officers, PCSO, maybe even mounted people.
Well, if I had my time again, I'd like to be a dog handler. But anyway, let's move on. So, last week, the Prime Minister stated that the police would have more powers to enforce regulations, and it's been suggested that maybe even the Army could get called in. What does that mean for policing in Avon and Somerset?
So we have more powers powers for new offences with heavier fines, such as failing to wear a face mask, in a shop or on public transport, and taxi drivers now need to wear them. Failure to comply with those offences is a £200 fine, and we have issued one. Actually, that was for gathering in a group more than 6 of someone having an unlicensed party. So in the last 7 days, I checked actually just before I came on, we've had over 500 calls of concerns about COVID breaches. We've attended 41%, almost 42%. We've issued 2 tickets and 1 other piece of enforcement action. So we very much want to continue to work in partnership. We have to work in partnership with our community, the people we're here to serve. And most people want to see these rules complied with. We watch with interest the public survey work. And so we're still working along the lines of, we call it the 4 E's: engage, explain, encourage, and then if people won't comply, enforce. Most people actually will comply when challenged, which is why we're issuing relatively few tickets happily. But the clear direction to officers is, if people refuse to comply, or they're blatantly disregarding public health, or they're repeat offenders, then they will get a ticket. And we'll continue to do this.
And I suppose we've also got concerns from people who are not able to wear a face mask for health reasons, and they're worried that they may be issued a fine. So what can local people do to be able to communicate with the police to avoid a fine if they're not able to wear a mask?
So children under 11, people with autism, people with breathing difficulties and asthma, and there are other exemptions as well. So it is a matter for them, but they can download an exemption card. Certain conditions are providing bracelets that they can wear, which would explain visibly why they're not wearing a face mask. But this is entirely a matter for them. What I can guarantee you is that officers and community support officers will engage and discuss with people before they commit. And they'll do that in a respectful way before any enforcement takes place.
Yeah, and I've seen that for myself, that's happening.
But I think if people are worried about other members of the community being judgmental of them, or because I think we can all see that happening, then they could consider wearing something that indicates to someone looking at them and wondering why they're not wearing a mask, indeed why they are. But that is a matter of personal choice.
Okay, thank you for bringing clarity to that. So since last Thursday, we know that bars and restaurants have now got to close at 10 p.m. and can only do table service. We've also seen photos in other parts of the country, not in our patch, where lots of people are out on the streets at 10 o'clock and they're all congregating and probably not socially distancing. So how are the police going to work with that, and how can we work with our local councils, for the particularly on licensing laws and things?
Local councils are represented at our local resilience forum, which is chaired by our Assistant Chief Constable, Nikki Watson. And what I know is happening is that they're engaging in communications and briefing events to make sure that we conduct our enforcement activity in a coordinated way. We've agreed that any enforcement around licensed premises will be conducted by local authorities. But of course, the police have got people on the ground 24/7, 365. And of course, we will be making checks, gathering evidence, and if enforcement needs to be taken, we'll be passing that information to the local authorities that can consider their enforcement options. What I can say, Sue, and this is from a happy position, I have had a chance to sample some food and beer in restaurants and pubs over the last week. I have seen really responsible behaviour. Licensees, managers of pubs and restaurants doing everything they can to keep their business going and keeping a COVID-safe environment. And I'm very impressed with what I've seen. I've had direct reports back from what's been happening in Bristol at 10 o'clock. Obviously, there is an exodus of people coming out of the pubs and restaurants, but they're not creating problems. They haven't created problems. They've gone home. What I would urge people to do is that if you are out in the nighttime economy and it finishes at 10, please go home. Don't be tempted to buy some alcohol from the supermarkets or any other outlets or hang around. You need to get home, and that way will give the regulations that we have now the best chance of working. So we've not seen those scenes in anywhere in Avon and Somerset.
that partnership working is really key. I had a meeting with the vice chancellors of the 2 universities in Bristol, and I was really impressed with the investment that they've put into their buildings, and employing security staff to remind students about the social distancing and the face masks. And they have University of Bristol are bringing their students back in a very staged return, and in fact UE students don't get back until the middle of October. So it's working together about how, with that influx of students that we'll see, of which they are very welcome, because they are part of our economy and the joy of living in Bristol, that working together we can keep them safe. And the universities have been very clear that they will not take kindly or lightly anyone who flagrantly disobeys the rules, and that they will be disciplined. And I think that jointly working with the police and with local councils as well is absolutely key to how we're going to tackle this pandemic, and reflecting, of course, that we have very low figures in comparison to the rest of the country. They are increasing, I understand that, but we are in a better place, and that is due to people like you who are watching this. It's people that you are compliant, that you understand the reasons, and that that the more that we can take that personal responsibility to be able to look after ourselves, look after our loved ones, and to follow the rules and the regulations. I know they're changing and I know they're confusing, but they're keeping us safe, and that's what's really important. So thank you for watching this. We will have another Facebook Live in a few weeks' time, and if you have any questions that you'd like me to put to the Chief Constable, then please let me know. So in the meantime, stay safe. Thank you.